We can't forgive the church. Survivors like me cannot forgive the church until the full truth has been revealed, not just about Cardinal Mr. McCarrick, but scores of bishops throughout the world and throughout the history of the church. This is a systemic and historical problem. I can't imagine it's going to go away just with one report about one man.
And now you try and help support victims of clerical abuse. Are there any recurring traits that you can identify in terms of the clergy that has been let off the hook in some respects by the church?
Every case is different, and every case is also tragically the same. And most of this has to do with the arrogance of church leaders who believe that their laws are more important, more significant than civil and criminal laws, both in the United States, but in France and throughout Europe and the rest of the world. They just think that they're better and that they can police themselves, which is clearly not true.
James, by telling your story, you have provided support to other victims who've now had the courage to speak out. Can you share with us, though difficult I know, what happened to you?
The neighborhood in which I grew up in Erie, Pennsylvania, we had a church right around the corner from where I lived. And the church was a social center. It was a place for all the kids in the neighborhood to play. But I also worked at the church as a kid after school and was there almost every day. And the priest, the pastor, who knew that my home life was compromised, that both of my parents were experiencing their own difficulties, knew that I was vulnerable, and over years brought me closer and closer to him. And at an especially vulnerable moment, he moved on me. And that type of grooming is the type of behavior that most of us experience, whether it's at the hands of a priest abuser or a nun abuser or even a bishop. The bishops today, my bishop in Erie, Pennsylvania, I believe, is re-victimizing me because he hasn't engaged in the same degree of transparency that we've seen in this report, even if it's flawed. We need to be heard, and we need to get to your point. To forgive the church, we have to know first the full truth. We can't forgive something when there's a lack of transparency. There could be hundreds, if not thousands, of these types of reports.
When you spoke about that bishop in Pennsylvania who you say is not disclosing enough and not being transparent, what's your message to him? What do you want him to hear from you, who is abused by clergy?
He needs to give a full accounting of not just the names of abusers, which he's put that out at least substantially, I would say, compared to other dioceses. But he hasn't said where the abuse happened. He hasn't talked about the extent of it. He hasn't talked about where it happened. How many victims are there for each of the priests that have been publicly identified? We know who the abusers are. Where did they abuse? How many times did they abuse? They're really unwilling, including my bishop, to underline the systematic and historical nature of this problem.